Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of If I Stay.
Say something, I'm giving up on you.
Since I first saw the trailer for If I Stay, I've actually been really excited to see it. I'm a pretty big fan of Chloe Grace Moretz. I've liked the career choices for the most part that she's done. I find her to be oddly just an intriguing actress, so whenever I see her kind of put into something, it makes me a little bit more interested in it. And I usually at least like her work, even if the film itself doesn't turn out to be great. For whatever reason, I'm just drawn to her as an actress. So when I saw her as like a lead role, it seemed like she was in her element. This was going to be something she was great in. I got excited. Fortunately, it didn't live up to those initial expectations for me. But let's go ahead and start this review on a positive note. What did the film do well? Well, Chloe Grace Moretz, I thought, was a highlight in the movie. And I think actually the entire cast really acted well. Their interactions with each other were really fantastic, and they felt genuine, they felt personal, they felt heartfelt. And I really was sucked into the personal stories of the characters. I thought the romantic relationship and connection between Chloe Grace Moretz and Jamie Blakely was really strong, and they really kind of developed it throughout the entirety of the film. And I also thought her relationship with her parents and her friends was also very strong. I thought her parents were fantastic in this movie. They were great parental figures who weren't too far zany but not too far strict. They just played really believable parental figures. Really cool parents too. Like, well, everybody wants those parents on the screen. But just everybody really acted well. And I thought that was the strongest aspect of the film, was the cast. In addition, if you're not aware, this is kind of a heart-jerker. It's meant to be obviously a romance, but it's also meant to be a little twist on that is very tear-jerking. And there are some definite heartfelt moments here that really do tug at those tears, and they feel pretty authentic, so you don't feel overly manipulated when we get to that part. In particular, Stacy Keach, who does play the grandpa, is fantastic in this movie. So I didn't call his name out as part of the highlights of the acting cast because I thought he deserved his own shout out in this heartfelt piece, because he was such a great character in my mind. And when he gets to his kind of acting reel moment, he is so wonderful in it, and it's so fantastic. And I thought it was the highlight of the entire film, was that one moment we get with Keisha's grandfather character. And once you get there, I think you might notice he just sells it fantastically. But outside of that, I think the film's structure really helps and hurts it. So this will lead us into our negatives. We'll just go right in. But it helps because we don't just get a linear story. We do bounce back and forth between present and flashback. And why I think that helps is because at this point, it keeps you kind of invested, and it keeps everything moving along. If we had just gone from, time that they met through love story to the tragedy part, I think it would just be too much of one thing at once, and once we got to that tragedy part, I think it would have just been an onslaught, and you wouldn't be able to handle it. It would just be too much. However, I think the jumping back and forth takes away a little bit from the actual sadness that you are meant to feel. Until we get to a peak point in the movie, I don't think you really feel too much sadness. Maybe it's just me, this is black in here, I know, but I think it does detract from the emotional impact that we could be having throughout. I think what else didn't really help the emotional impact is the writing. We had some really cheesy writing throughout that just completely was unbelievable. And it was mainly in the romantic part. I think the chemistry was great, but a lot of the setup was completely flawed. Like on the first date, she was asking some outrageous questions, just like making some really weird accusations, like, I'm scared you're gonna ruin my life. Out of the first date, it was just like, what? Who says that? Who is this forward? Who is this crazy? When you barely are meeting this person, you're barely getting to know them. So, just small things like that kept happening throughout the movie where I was just like, what? Are you, what? No, like, come on. And it really distracted you because everything surrounding those what moments was great. It was great. It had you, and then they just threw in one little thing that you were just jolted for a second. Another thing that seemed to bother me is that Chloe Grace Moretz is supposed to play this character that is just this cello prodigy. And some of the musicality stuff just really bugged me. And this might just be like, you know, music nerd coming out. But she literally had an obsession with Beethoven. And, you know, just calling it Ludwig and all this kind of stuff. Just didn't listen to anything else. You know, pop music, rock music, or even classical music that wasn't Beethoven. And it just had me thinking, like, is that the only composer that the author of the book knew or the screenwriter knew? Because it seemed to be the only composer that she knew throughout the whole film. I was like, I wish we could have had a little bit of a literary reference to somebody else. Any other composer. Even throw Mozart if you want. If you want another big name that, you know, us mainstream audience can identify with. Just reference anybody else once in the film, and I don't think it happened at all. It was just all about Beethoven, Beethoven, Beethoven. And the other thing was just this, it was this off-the-wall reference of thinking that the cello is a solo-only instrument. And I just thought, she's a senior in high school. Has she never been part of an orchestra? They kind of show where she gets the cello from. And it's in a school building. So presumably, if you obviously were shown the cello in a school, you then played as part of the school's orchestra? And, you know, yes, the cello can be used as an individual instrument, but it's obviously more of a background. It doesn't even get a lot of the solos and leads in orchestral music. So it was just a very weird statement to me, and I know that's probably just me being weird, and, you know, obviously you'll think of your instrument if you're just that engrossed into it and play that many solos, maybe as a solo instrument, but it was just an odd comment. Let me just say, I hated this ending. I thought the ending was terrible. And obviously I'm not going to go too far into it so you can continue watching without a spoiler. Just know the way this film ended left me really frustrated. And most of the goodwill I had for the movie leading in was kind of squashed and at least overshadowed when the movie finished the way it did. I mean, it just, I hated the ending. Tell me if you liked or hated the ending in the comments below once you see the movie. Leading off of that, I think this movie has a unique premise. The book has a unique premise of somebody getting to choose life or death. And I think, you know, with Robin Williams and his unfortunate passing due to suicide that just came out, this is not deal with suicide. I will put that on the table now. This is not deal with suicide. It deals with a car accident. But choosing life or death is kind of prominent in a completely different way in our actual talk right now, in our actual media. And I thought it was a very just interesting way to look at it, of how do you weigh whether coming back, getting back in your body, I guess, or going off to whatever past life you believe, was something interesting. I do think that the doctor and all of the people, the medical staff, kept reminding you that it was her choice way too many times. Another annoyance that goes back to the writing. Just, what? They don't really talk like that, do they? But it was just squandered. And it kind of just turned into a typical love story that had this side plot of, you know, otherworldliness to it. And I think it could have gotten so much deeper, and it could have explored this issue so much better. And it kind of just turned into a teenage love story, you know, gone wrong in many ways, and, you know, teenage life, and what teenagers or young adults have to go through, and, you know, how that affects other people around them, the whole shebang. But I wish it had just taken advantage of this really cool, kind of heavy premise that we were all presented with. Overall, I think If I Stay was a good movie, but it could have been great. And I would suggest it if you do like romance movies. If you liked The Fault in Our Stars earlier this year, I do think you'll like this movie. I will say it is nowhere near as good as The Fault in Our Stars, so be warned. But I think if you do like romance movies, don't put it up against other movies. Just judge it on its own merit, and I think you will be entranced with the chemistry because the actors did do that good of a job. If you don't like romance movies, don't even enter the theater. This has no interest to you. So that's just how it is. I'd say this is a good matinee viewing, possibly a good date movie. That has been my review of If I Stay. I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit like down below and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I love you all so much for your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!